There's a moment, a split second. The air shifts, eyes lock, and the accusation lands like a blade across your chest. Why did you do that? Are you lying? Do you even care? In that moment, the average person bleeds. They defend themselves. They rush to justify. They scramble to explain. Words spill out in a desperate attempt to be understood. Please believe me. Please see my intent. Please don't think I'm the villain here. But the second you explain, the second you plead, you've already lost. Because in the arena of power, emotions are chains. And the one who tugs those chains owns you. Most people think emotion makes them human. They wear their heart on their sleeve like it's a badge of honor. They tell themselves vulnerability is strength, honesty is noble, transparency is courageous. But Machiavelli knew better. He saw what most refuse to admit. That emotion is the soft underbelly where the knife always slides in. Emotion exposes. Emotion betrays. Emotion enslaves. You want to win? You want to dominate? Then you must cut the chains. You must detach. The weakness of normal behavior. Look around you. Observe the common man. Watch how easily he bends when pressed. He grows angry at insults, defensive at questions, wounded by rejection. He reacts, always reacting, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Someone mocks him? He lashes back. Someone doubts him? He explains himself. Someone ignores him? He chases validation. His entire existence is a battlefield he never controls, because his emotions are weapons handed to his enemies. This is the tragedy of the ordinary. He believes his feelings are truth. He believes that if he shows enough sincerity, others will finally respect him. But sincerity is not currency. Respect is not earned by baring your throat. Wolves respect silence, power, and control, not the whimper of prey. Most people are not in control of their frame. They step into conversations already submitting to the emotional energy of others. A glare makes them tremble. A raised voice rattles them. A sigh makes them insecure. They are owned without realizing it. Machiavelli's law. Machiavelli understood the dark truth. Power belongs to the one who controls perception, and perception is dictated by emotion. He warned rulers never to be loved too much, for love is fickle. Never to be hated without fear, for hatred seeks revenge. He told them to craft masks, to wear emotions like armor or weapons, but never to become their prisoner. The lesson is brutal, but clear. You must never react in the way your enemies expect. If they strike to make you angry, you stay calm. If they attempt to shame you, you smirk. If they try to break you with silence, you outlast them. This is frame control. This is psychological warfare. It is not about truth. It is not about justice. It is about dominance. Detach, and you seize the high ground. Dominate, and they crumble beneath the weight of their own emotions. Cold, practical tactics. Detach. That is the first step. But detachment is not apathy. It is not numbness. It is precision. It is the surgeon's scalpel, cutting away weakness. Here is what it looks like in practice. Do not explain. The moment you defend yourself, you admit guilt. Let their accusations rot in silence. The one who explains is always beneath the one who questions. Weaponize pauses. Do not rush to fill silence. Let them squirm. The longer they wait for your reaction, the more power you accumulate. Redirect frames. When someone challenges you, pivot the focus. Don't answer the question. Question the questioner. Put them on the defensive. Mask emotion. Anger, sadness, fear. Bury them deep. Show only what serves your strategy. A calm face can be more terrifying than a raised fist. Every tactic is simple, but simple does not mean easy. It requires the death of your ego, the burial of your need to be understood, liked, or vindicated. The ruthless truth. Here is what no one wants to hear. Emotions are luxuries of the powerless. The rulers of men, the predators of society, the true dominators, they do not waste themselves bleeding for others to understand. They do not cry to be seen. They do not defend themselves in the court of public opinion. They move in silence. They strike without warning. They let their enemies choke on uncertainty. Detach, and you will see the world for what it is. A battlefield of perception. Dominate, and you will never again be at the mercy of another's words, moods, or doubts. Because in the end, it is not the blade that cuts deepest. It is the silence after the blade. Most people react, but Machiavelli knew the one who does not react controls everything. The crowd believes anger proves strength. They cheer for passion, for raw fire, for the man who roars loudest. But look closer. Watch carefully. The loudest voice in the room is usually the weakest. His rage is not power, it is exposure. Every tremor in his tone, every twitch of his jaw is a confession. You think you see dominance in his fury. What you're really seeing is leverage handed to his enemy, because the enemy now knows exactly where to cut. Machiavelli warned rulers to conceal their intentions, to appear flexible, to disguise their desires. He knew what modern psychology confirms. Once people know what drives you, they can control you. They can bait you. They can trap you. And nothing reveals you faster than emotion. The anatomy of control. Detach, and you enter the rarefied air of power. But let's dissect exactly why this works. Emotion is energy. It is the spike of adrenaline, the flush of cortisol, the quickening of the pulse. Useful for survival in the wild, but fatal in the modern battlefield of words, negotiations, and perception. Because in social combat, emotion clouds calculation. It speeds up the body but slows down the mind. The detached one, however, sees everything. While others burn in their feelings, he becomes the observer. He watches the micro-expressions, the slip of the tongue, the anxious laugh. He notes the tremor others are too blind to notice. And when the moment comes, he does not swing wildly. He aims like a sniper. One sentence, one glance, one silence timed perfectly. And the entire frame collapses. Detach first, dominate second. That is the law. What the average man does. Picture this. Someone insults the average man, calls him incompetent, questions his intelligence. Immediately, the man bristles. His voice rises. He says, "No, I'm not stupid. I'll prove it." He argues, debates, waves his arms. Do you see the trap? The enemy has already won. Because the moment you argue with an insult, you legitimize it. You've accepted their frame. You've stepped into their arena. Even if you win the argument, you've lost because you showed you could be baited. You showed that your worth can be summoned and questioned at will. Now picture the Machiavellian response. The insult lands, but he does not react. His face remains unreadable. Or worse, he smiles. A faint, cold smile that says nothing yet implies everything. Suddenly, the insult feels small, childish. The crowd senses the imbalance. The insulter looks desperate. The silent one looks untouchable. Detach. Do nothing. And in doing nothing, you win everything. Machiavelli's hidden doctrine. Machiavelli taught that a prince must learn how not to be good, how to wield cruelty when necessary, and how to mask it with appearances of virtue. But beneath this doctrine lies a sharper truth. Control is not about force, it's about composure. When you show no emotion, others project onto you. They cannot read you, so they imagine. And what people imagine is always more powerful than what you say. Mystery magnifies authority. The detached one becomes a mirror. Others see themselves reflected in his silence. They grow uneasy. They start filling the silence with their own words, their own fears, and in doing so, they reveal themselves. Detach, and you force others to speak. Dominate, and you decide which of their words become weapons. Cold, ruthless applications. Let's sharpen this into tactics you can carry into war. Never show urgency. If they pressure you to decide quickly, slow down. Calm delay is domination. Respond with questions. When attacked, do not answer. Instead, turn the blade. Why do you ask? What makes you think so? The attacker becomes the defendant. Master the dead stare. A calm, unblinking gaze unsettles more than any insult. The eyes that do not flinch project terrifying strength. Use emotional judo. When others grow angry, grow calmer. Their fire burns itself out against your stone wall. Exploit dependency. If someone leans on you emotionally, never lean back. Their need is your leash. These are not games. They are laws. Ignore them, and you will remain a servant to the moods of others. Practice them, and you will carve silence into a weapon sharper than steel. Now consider this. Why do most people fail to detach? Because they fear being misunderstood. They fear being unloved. They fear being seen as cold. But that fear is the cage. That fear is why they never rise above mediocrity. Understand this. When you detach, you will be called heartless. You will be accused of arrogance, of coldness, of cruelty. Let them cry. Let them whine. Their tears are proof that you have left their world of weakness behind, because emotion binds them to the herd. Detachment frees you to rule above it. The battlefield is not physical. It is psychological. And every day, you are being tested. Every glance, every tone, every insult, every silence. It is all war disguised as conversation. The average man is naked in this war. He brings his emotions to the front lines, waving them like banners, believing they will protect him. Instead, they mark him as prey. But the Machiavellian brings silence, detachment, patience. And when he strikes without warning, without wasted motion, without the noise of insecurity. Detach, and you rise above. Dominate, and you become the architect of others' downfall. Remember this law. The one who controls himself controls the battlefield. The one who cannot be moved moves everyone else. Silence is not absence. Silence is artillery. Silence is a loaded gun placed on a table while everyone else rushes to shout louder. You think conversation is exchange. It is not. Conversation is contest. Every sentence is a foot soldier in a war for meaning. Whoever shapes the narrative shapes reality. And the loudest mouth rarely shapes anything. They only fill space while someone else writes history in ink so fine it's invisible until it's too late. Detach, and you become the author. Dominate, and your pen becomes a scalpel. The psychology of silence. Why does silence wound? Because humans are pattern animals. We crave closure, explanation, and causality. When you refuse to provide it, the mind hunts. It invents reasons. It spins fantasies. The louder they imagine, the more you benefit. Silence forces projection, and projection is currency. People will assign motives to you that they cannot prove, but motives are potent. They will flatter you, fear you, or vilify you, each reaction revealing a weakness you can later exploit. You must learn to sit in silence like a throne. Let them fill the air. Let them trip over their words. The one who speaks first reveals the map. The one who stays silent watches the map being drawn. Scripts for social warfare words alone can be architecture. Use them like masonry, built slowly, so they do not crack under pressure. Below are scripts you can memorize and adapt. They are blunt instruments, simple, repeatable, deadly when delivered cold. The redirect, attacker. Why did you do that? You? Why do you assume it needs explaining? Watch the confusion. They expected defense. They got a mirror. The minimalist answer, attacker. You betrayed us. You. Fact? A one-syllable quarry. They must now prove it. The burden flips. The loaded pause. Attacker. You're lying. You. Two-beat pause. Maybe. Ambiguity claws at their certainty. They will rush to fill the gap, often improperly. The question trap. Attacker. Are you okay with this? You. Are you? Now they must clarify motive, desire, and position. You have deferred the emotional labor. The calm echo. Attacker. You don't care about our team. You. I care about results. Redirect emotion into metrics. They cannot argue without revealing incompetence. These are not polite conversational hacks. They are surgical strikes. They preserve your position while forcing others to reveal theirs. Use them sparingly. Brute repetition kills their potency. But when the timing is right, they are devastating. The politics of perception eats reality for breakfast. You could be right, noble and truthful, and still lose if your posture is wrong. People don't respond to facts as much as they respond to a story. The person who tells the story first sets the moral geometry of the situation. Thus, you must become a storyteller who seldom speaks. But when you do, the story is concise and lethal. Your narrative must establish inevitability, that your actions were logical, that alternatives were naive, that your critics are emotional. Let the narrative be a tide, slow, inexorable, drowning the opposition. But beware, storytelling is a craft, not a trick. If your silence breaks only to produce flimsy narratives, you will be dismissed. Practice the arc. Observe, absorb, then release a sentence that reframes without begging. The fewer words, the more authority. Emotional armor and strategic coldness detach is not inhumanity. It is armor. Think of it as ritualized self-defense. You design your emotional responses like a commander outfits troops. Only equip what serves the campaign. The rest is surplus baggage, a liability to jettison. Here's how to forge that armor. Ration your confessions. Share nothing that can be used as leverage. Personal history is ammunition for others. Keep it locked. Rehearse neutrality. Practice saying neutral phrases until they feel natural. Interesting. Noted. We'll consider that. Boring words are powerful when used deliberately. Anchor to purpose. When accused, return to mission language. Outcomes, objectives, deadlines. Purpose is a shield against petty emotional assaults. Control small gestures. Hands, posture, micro-expressions, these betray you first. Train them to be unreadable. The fewer tells you have, the fewer arrows can find a target. This is discipline, not cruelty. It is the labor of the sovereign who refuses to be swayed by the weather of others' moods. There is a price to this way of life. You will lose friendships. You will be labeled cold, manipulative, or worse. People will call you unempathetic while they pour their hearts into strangers who return the favor. Accept the cost. Every crown is heavy. Every throne isolates. If you want to belong to the herd, do not pursue mastery. If you want to rule the herd, accept that rulership is often a lonely, silent place. But understand the calculus. The pain of isolation is temporary. The pain of being controlled is permanent. You choose which hurt you will bear. When you detach properly, your legacy is not the warmth you gave, but the order you imposed. People will forget the kindnesses you might have rendered in private. They will remember, with crystalline clarity, how impossible you were to unsettle. That memory translates into influence. Detach, and others will mistake your silence for superiority. Dominate, and they will obey without knowing why. There is no virtue in being moved by everything. There is only the virtue of being in command.